once again, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session earlier. So up next, we have the pleasure of inviting Ms. Claire Cheong, Associate Director at NUS Enterprise and Program Head of the MSc Venture Creation Program. Claire possesses more than 17 years of experience in the areas of education and business development, working for renowned organizations such as Enterprise Singapore, Ipsos, and the Alliance Graduate Program at NUS. She has been with NUS Enterprise since 2018, where she is responsible for educating young and budding entrepreneurs, which makes her the perfect person for the upcoming session, Shaping the Landscape for a Future Economy, where Claire will share insights on how NUS has shaped and continues to shape the entrepreneurial landscape of Singapore, Southeast Asia, and beyond. Once again, there will be a Q&A segment after the talk, so to our virtual audience, feel free to type in your questions into the chat box next to your video. And for those of you attending physically, simply scan the QR code on screen or approach the mic in the middle of the room later to pose any questions that you may have. So enough from me and more from the speaker herself. Please allow me to invite Ms. Claire Cheong on stage. Claire, please.
Okay, a very good afternoon, everyone. Would you all want to move a little bit in front to sit a little bit nearer to me? Okay, if you're shy, fine. So maybe before I start, my name is Claire. I'm from NUS Enterprise, and NUS Enterprise is the entrepreneurial arm of the university. Maybe before I start my presentation, can I have a show of hands? How many of you here are founders of startup or you own a company? Okay, we have. How many of you are aspiring to start a company? Okay, we also have. And the rest are here to learn about our innovation and entrepreneurship in the university, probably, and have a think first. How many of you are still studying? Anyone? Oh, still studying, so we have students here, and the rest are all working adults, right? Okay. So today's topic is how do we shape the entrepreneurial landscape for a future economy? And I think in Singapore, I'm not sure if any of you who are the owners, if you have read the Global Startup Ecosystem Report by the Startup Genome, Singapore is actually the worst top 8 ecosystem, globally. And in NUS, I think my colleagues may have shared with you, NUS, one of the strategic trusts is on innovation and entrepreneurship. And what we aim to do is to really inject an enterprise, is to inject an enterprise dimension to the teaching and research, at the same time to create an environment to nurture the entrepreneurial talents. And also lastly is how do NUS promote the spirit of innovation through programs and various activities. This is an article at the South China Morning Post. So NUS has been named as the top Asian university that helped to groom some of Singapore's biggest startup founders. And NUS Enterprise, being the entrepreneurial arm of the university, is also named as one of the most influential force in setting up the Singapore startup ecosystem. So let me share briefly. There are 3 main objectives what NUS Enterprise does. We aim to develop entrepreneurial talent. We want to build global innovation and enterprise gateway. We also aim to create deep tech ventures. And later on, I share with you some of our programs. So how do we develop entrepreneurial talent? One of it is through the NUS Overseas Colleges. Have anyone heard about this? Some of your friends may be having interns that work for them, or you may have friends who are undergrads who are also having internship in startup companies. So NUS Overseas Colleges have been running for the past 20 over years. And what we do is we send our students overseas to intern in startups and learn from founders. At the same time, they also take part-time classes with our partner university in those locations. Currently, we have immersion in more than 15 locations. So a lot of people may think, can entrepreneurship be taught? Do you all think so? We have founders here that shake head. Can entrepreneurship be taught? So we actually went around and asked a lot of professors around the world, and everybody says entrepreneurship cannot be taught. So I think this gentleman is right. Because I think he probably has his business and he probably know the whole journey. And another question people tend to ask is, can entrepreneurs be born? You think so? Why? Different breed of people? Not everyone can be an entrepreneur, but everyone can still be an employee, right? Yes, I think entrepreneurs can be born because some of them are born in a family of all entrepreneurs. It could be that the whole family are all businessmen, they are entrepreneurs, and in the environment where you grew up, people all talk about it, and potentially, there's this genetic way of saying that entrepreneurs could be born. But what about the rest? Because this gentleman also said this could be special breed of people. But what about the rest? So based on a lot of research, we found out that entrepreneurship is caught, just like a flu bug. When you go around, you hang around people who have certain virus, for example, and then you go around. And you also caught it. So what we do is we actually send students overseas. And why do we want to send them overseas? Because in that environment where people all hang around, you realize that entrepreneurship can be caught. So sharing some of the trends through the internet boom, we have also seen the evolution of a Netscape coming up from University of Illinois, and we also have Yahoo, where the founder comes from Stanford University, Google from Stanford University. We saw VMware from UC Berkeley. We also have seen Akamai from MIT. So the big question people tend to ask is, so can entrepreneurs be nurtured? So what we have done in the university is we did an experiment in 2002. So we launched an experiment. The idea is we want to send students for a year-long full-time internship in startups in top ecosystem. We want them to take part-time classes at our partner university. And they, at the same time, are being mentored by the serial entrepreneurs, by the venture capitalists, and also people from the ecosystem. So the objective is really, we want students to be able to understand the culture, to feel how the whole environment is, and also experience the intensity of how a startup is being run. And at the same time, because they're working directly with the founders, we want them to be inspired by their journey, by their story, at the same time be exposed to the local ecosystem of various entrepreneurial activities, such as there are a lot of conferences in different places. There are a lot of seminars, there are talks by different founders. We get them to be part of it. And that's where, when they hang around with the right people, they will catch the entrepreneurial bug and also say, hey, I also want to do the same. And of course, building the confidence. So in 2002, NUS did our first experiment. We sent a group of 14 students to Silicon Valley, getting them to intern in a startup and also taking part-time classes with our partner university, which is Stanford University. Can you guess, out of the 14 students, 1 year later when they come back, how many of them start a company? Want to make a guess? Any number. All of them. 10 out of 14. So we have 9 out of 14 who came back and they start a company. Being our first experiment, if we can get 14 out of 14, I think we are like the best. But I think as a first experiment, we have 9 out of 14 who came back and start a company. So over the years, we expanded into a few other locations. Beyond Silicon Valley, we opened in Philadelphia, we go to Shanghai, we send our students to Stockholm. And over the many years, we also track them. Every year, how many founders do we have? And we do see an increasing trend of startups being founded by our students who've been through this program. And it means that the experiment is working. So over the past 20 years, we now have presence in 18 ecosystems around the world. In US, we have Silicon Valley, we partner with Stanford University. In New York, we partner with New York University. In Toronto, it's with University of Toronto. And we also have in Europe, in Stockholm, in Paris, Munich, Norway, Israel, and we go to China. We also have our presence in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen. And we are also looking to expand into Chongqing and Guangzhou. For Southeast Asia, we currently have presence in Bangkok, in Vietnam as Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, and in Indonesia, we have Bandung, Jogja, and Jakarta, and of course in Singapore. So we're looking to expand into more and more new markets over time as we send our students to really understand how the ecosystem is like. So over these past 20 years, we also asked ourselves, so what is our results? And we found out over the past 20 years, we currently have about 4,000 alumni, and we have more than 1,000 startups that were founded. And 500, or half of them are actually currently still active. And these made up about 9% of the active startups in Singapore. So 15% of them are headquartered outside of Singapore across 25 countries. And we have also helped them to raise more than $2 billion USD with various investors. And startups that have been through our program, we found that it takes them close to 5 years to exit. So it's 4.8 years to exit, and comparing to the national average of about 6.8 years to exit. So it means that we are doing something right. So we also found out that we have created close to 9,000 jobs over the years. And students who have been through our program are also 10 times more likely to be an entrepreneur. And for those who are not an entrepreneur, actually close to 80% of them still remain in the innovation and enterprise ecosystem. By this ecosystem, we mean that these are students or alumni who are founders, who work in startups, or who work in accelerators, incubator. They can be working with the venture capitalists and so on. And 1/3 of them are actually serial entrepreneurs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this face. So this is Darius, one of our NOC alumni, and he's the founder of 99Co. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the platform for diversity, which also reflects the campus in terms of our diversity. We have different kind of background of people coming together, learning about entrepreneurship. And in terms of unicorns, over the past 20 years of our experience, we have 2 unicorns that came up from the NOC pool of alumni, which is PetSnap. I'm not sure if you're familiar. So they do the IP patent search. And this is Carousel. Are you familiar with Carousel? Do you all use Carousel? So the founders, the 3 boys, went for the NOC, come back, they wanted to do something. We incubated them, we supported them, we helped them. And over time, they are now unicorn. By unicorn, it means that they have valuation of more than USD 1 billion. And we also have 3 other startups that is also on track to be unicorn. They currently are at more than 900 million USD in terms of valuation, which is Circus Life, Funding Society, and also Shopback. So that is the first objective of us trying to develop entrepreneurial talent. In terms of building the global innovation and enterprise gateway, we also have our incubator where we provide them support on mentorship, access to funding, incubation, and other business clinics. And these are some pictures of where we are. We have our incubator in Singapore, which is in the campus. We have also one at Ayer Rajah, Block 71. I'm not sure anyone been to Block 71? Or One North area? Yeah, okay. And for Block 71, we have also expanded beyond Singapore to a few other locations. In terms of the startups that we incubate, we have more than 400 tech-driven startups, and they come from all the different kind of technology sectors, ranging from, it could be advanced material, AI, biotech, health tech, blockchain, cybersecurity, and so on. And Block 71 is actually our tech ecosystem builder and a global connector. We are like an aggregator for the startup community, and we currently have presence in several countries: Singapore, US, Indonesia, China, Vietnam, and also in Japan. So for our startup, where they get our, for example, a startup that is based in Block 71 Singapore, when they want to expand overseas to Indonesia, we welcome them to be connected directly to our Block 71 Jakarta, Bandung, or Jogja. Similarly, for Vietnam, we connect them to our Block 71 in Ho Chi Minh City, and so on. So this is actually the nodes that we're trying to build so that it helps our startups when they want to expand beyond Singapore. They do have certain support that we can provide to them over time. So this is a picture of our Block 71 in Singapore. I think some of you may have seen it. If you have not, this is just at Ayer Rajah Road, at a one-off station just across, and that is actually the launch pad. So it's like a startup hub where many of the VCs, many of the startups are located. So what we do in Block 71, we have hosted more than 1,000 events. We have also access to more than 50 VCs. We have also had, okay, this is the events. And we are also listed in The Economist as the world's most highly packed entrepreneurial ecosystem. We also get shout out from the previous president of US, Barack Obama, who also mentioned about Block 71 when there was a PM visit to the White House. So NUS Enterprise startup comprises of about 23% of the Singapore startups. And we realized that 55% survival rate for startups that is in our ecosystem, compared to an average of about 40% for startups that survive beyond 5 years. 11% of our startups have also raised Series A, at least. And these are some of the notable scale-ups that we have seen. And we also have those who have good M&A exits, and also those who exit via IPO. And in terms of unicorn, across the NOC, across the Block 71, we currently have 9 listed here. And in fact, just very recently, I think there were another 2 more that was added to the list. So these are unicorns who have been incubated at different of our Block 71 across the different locations. And we, at NUS Enterprise, we also work with corporates on various kind of innovation programs. And these are some of the examples of the companies that we work with. The third thing that we do here is really on how do we create deep tech ventures. One of our signature programs is actually the Graduate Research Innovation Program. The aim of this program is for graduate students and research staff to be able to commercialize NUS research and technology. So NUS has a lot of researchers. So we want this research to be commercialized. So we came up with a proprietary methodology called the GRIP. And over the past few years, we have also seen more and more startups coming up from this program, and these are all startups that leverages on NUS technology. For these startups, we actually support them with an initial of 100,000 Singapore dollars as a seed funding, and we have also currently supported more than 100 teams over the past 3 to 4 years. And as we continue to build more and more startups through various programs, we have also seen our ecosystem growing and across very diverse group of sectors as well. So looking at our story of how we build entrepreneurial talent through the NUS Overseas Colleges program, and how we create the Innovation and Enterprise Gateway through the Block 71, and also our GRIP program, the Graduate Research Innovation, we actually put all these best practices into a 1-year master's course called the Master of Science in Venture Creation. So this is a 1-year program focused on experiential approach. And the idea is we want to transform mindsets. We want them to eventually spin off their own startup. And we launched this in 2021. So why we are different from some of the other courses is that we focus a lot on experiential learning. Most of the time, students are actually outside the classroom. I think a typical other courses, you may have lectures and lectures, but for us, most of the time, students are outside. For example, they have to go through a compulsory internship module, and this internship is really to immerse themselves in the startup, learning from the founders. They also have to go through practicum, which is an acceleration program. And that is where they have to come up with the MVP, depending on what is the idea that they have. And How do we accelerate their ideas is we teach them various kind of framework, the thought process on how do you turn an idea into something that you can bring to market. So there are various frameworks that we teach them. And we also provide access to NUS technologies and NUS IP. NUS currently have a long list of research and IPs that has been done, and we encourage our students to actually leverage on that and use it as their business idea, and they can actually spin it off into a company right after they graduate. And throughout the course of these programs, students also get access to be connected to founders, to VCs, to people from the ecosystem, and also meeting friends from around the world. So leveraging our past 20 years of experience nurturing entrepreneurship, and that's where this program is created. And we are created as, I think my colleagues may also have shared on the NUS ranking. So just very recently, the latest report is NUS is ranked number 8. Leveraging on NUS branding, leveraging on what are some of the best things that we do, we have also worked with our other faculties to come up with these multidisciplinary program. So this is not just a one faculty. NUS Enterprise is the core partner in this program as we develop the core curriculum. But we work with faculties like the engineering, the business school, the computing school, and so on, to come up with the rest of the elective modules so that students start to graduate with various kind of other disciplines as well. And why do we want to do it as a multidisciplinary? We want to tap on some of the best expertise that we have with the various professors, and that's where we work with various faculties. So as you can see, we do have rankings and other specialization as well. So how this program is being structured is students come, first 2 weeks is a boot camp. The boot camp is to learn about what is entrepreneurship, having to learn about the overview of the different types of entrepreneurship, the different frameworks, getting access to meet with founders, the VCs, and so on. All this is done at the boot camp for the first 2 weeks. And once they get to learn a little bit more, you can see that the mindset will probably be changed probably at the beginning. And then they go into the first semester of the internship. That's where they start working in the startup, learning from the founders. And they also have to take other modules like the Dual Venture Creation, which currently is being run by our business school. And elective modules will be run by various other faculties. And in the second semester, they have to do a Great Venture Creation practicum, and this is where they go through this acceleration program. And with this acceleration, this is where we will want them to come up with the idea, form a team, and they have to come up with the MVP, which is the minimum viable product at the end of the 6 months. And they have to present to investors to let investors see whether this is something that is feasible or not feasible. And at the end of that 1 year, they should already have a company by then. And that's a matter of whether they spin off and incorporate it right after graduation. So these are just some examples of what they do. So in the summer boot camp, they really have to go through workshops, learning journeys, they do pitching, they do mentoring, they talk to founders and so on. And in an internship, they get exposed to various other activities that the companies require them to do, and practicum is just about pitching and pitching and pitching. At the end of the day, they know how to pitch to the investors at the end of the 6 months. And in terms of the audience, we are looking at students who have entrepreneurial interests, who have entrepreneurial mindset, or working adults who want to look into how do you create a venture, or what are some of the other alternatives that you can do. And we have our first 3 batches of students who graduated. So this was just taken about 2 weeks ago. So our batch 3 students graduated. And you may be wondering, after graduation, where do they go? Many of them started their own company. Many of them working in a startup. And also many of them are also being part of the ecosystem. They could be in VC, they could be in accelerator, and so on. But many of them who are not ready to start a company, they want to get certain experience first. And so most of them actually also get jobs in big tech firms or the MNCs, just to gain certain experience before they decide if starting up is what they want to do. So the next few slides are some examples, some testimonial of our startup. Just to share, this lady is a Singaporean. She took our class, batch 1 from 2021. And during the class, she got to know this boy, and this boy is from Pakistan. And they realized they have good chemistry. And right after they graduate, they actually spin off a startup together and currently doing a startup in the health tech space to tackle the sleep apnea issues. And another lady, this lady is from Thailand. She went back home after she graduated, and over the past 1 year, she has already started 2 startups in Bangkok. And this student is from China. He went back home, and I think he has started 2 companies since he graduated for the past 1.5 years. This is also another example of a startup. And Joanne is from Singapore. She just graduated 2 weeks ago, and she just incorporated her startup right after graduation. And the startup is in the health tech space as well. So in terms of application, so currently application is not open yet for those who is interested, or if you have friends who may be interested. The application period will start in October, and it will end in February for Singaporeans and PR. And for international applicants, it will end on 31st of January. And in terms of discipline, I think a lot of questions tend to come from, so what kind of discipline do you look for? We generally don't look at specific disciplines because entrepreneurship is not about only a specific discipline, specific faculties who can do it. We actually open it to students with various kind of background. So far, what we have seen, we have students from engineering, from business, from finance, from arts to join us in our entrepreneurship classes. We also have students from law who have also joined us before in our batch 1. And for Singaporeans, how many of you are Singaporeans here? Okay, quite a number. For Singaporeans who is keen, we do have some scholarship and study awards to be considered when you apply. All right, and these are there are scholarship and study awards for the qualified applicants. If you are keen, you can scan the QR code to find out more. All right, and this is the link to the brochure if you are keen to find out a little bit more on what this program is about. Okay, and I'm done with this. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Claire, for the insightful sharing. So I presume we have our fair share of aspiring entrepreneurs among the audience. So let's get straight to the Q&A segment, shall we? So once again, before fleshing out the questions that were submitted online, any heart-burning questions from the physical attendees that are here today? Just simply make the short walk down to the mic in the middle of the room and let us know what you think. Any questions? Anyone regarding the program, regarding entrepreneurship in general, or just about anything that you would like to ask Claire?
So at NUS Enterprise, we actually do various things. Programs is just one. I think we have master's program, we have short program, we also incubate startups, and anytime if any of you, I think for those with startups, happy to also chat if you think that there's anything that NUS Enterprise can actually support you along the way.
Yes, that's right. So it's okay, let's look at the online questions that were submitted earlier throughout the course of the presentation. So yeah. First question here, interesting one and relevant one to quite a few of you in this room. So what are the challenges to establish a startup in Singapore, especially for a foreigner? Claire, please.
I believe in Singapore, the government is very, very supportive. And regardless whether you're Singaporeans or non-Singaporean, I think there are some kind of support to help startups. So for example, one of our students here, they graduated, he's a non-Singaporean. And right after they graduate, they want to incorporate a company. And they applied the Entrepass. Entrepass is where the government allows for foreigners who is starting a company to actually get access to these pass, and they can stay in Singapore to work on their startup. Yeah. And for the other startups, if you're already a startup, you want to come here, we do have our Block 71 incubators that you can have access to. And we do have support for you if you come over to Block 7 in Singapore or Block 71 other locations. We welcome them as well.
Sure, thank you, Claire. So just to elaborate, there's whether it's a foreigner or Singapore citizens, there are basically no restrictions from NUS enterprise, right? As long as you have a good idea. And, yeah.
Yes, so for NUS Enterprise, I think we don't look at whether you're a Singaporean or non-Singaporean. We actually support startups as long as you're part of our ecosystem, part of our network.
Great, that's very good to know. So shall we have the next question? Okay, this question was posted by Roland. So how can other countries or regions learn from Singapore's approach in terms of building a vibrant startup ecosystem? So, Claire.
So you're talking about startup ecosystem is probably leveraging our Block 71, for example. So Block 71 has had presence in different locations. For those we don't have a physical presence, we do work with partners in those countries as well. And from the education perspective, for entrepreneurship courses, we do work with various universities in different countries as well, and we work together with their incubation facilities and also help to incubate their startup, our startup, or a joint startup, for example. That is possible as well. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, we hope we answer your question, Roland. If you have a follow-up question, please feel free to post it as well.
I can also cite an example. Just last week, we finished a boot camp. And the boot camp comprises of 300 participants coming from 20 different countries, all coming to Singapore to learn about entrepreneurship, to be immersed in the ecosystem in Singapore and also learning about the Southeast Asia opportunities and the Southeast Asia culture. And what we have observed is that generally students who have been through this, after they go back home, they will continue to work on their ideas. And as they continue to work on the ideas, they also work remotely with the rest of the friends that they make here. And that's how I think they continue to build this startup idea even after they finish a program.
Very interesting to know. So yeah, before we move on to the questions, just a reminder to the audience, anytime you have any question, just raise your hand. We'll pause this section and then allow you to walk to the mic. Yeah, sure, please, sir.
Hi, Clara, and thanks for the presentation. Lots of good information. I'm curious, you had one slide detailing, I think there was 3 categories of potentials. Students who were interested, students who had, like, you know, in their DNA, and then there was working professionals. Can you share what the working professional success rate is for?
Success rate in terms of starting a company or?
Yeah, starting a company.
So far, based on the students who have been through the Master of Science in Venture Creation, we do have a sizable pool of students who are recent grad, and also we have a pool of students who have already some kind of working experience. I would say those with working experience tend to adapt easier and faster. And we have also seen many of these spin-off companies also faster. For the recent grads, I think depending on whether they are already doing something while they are a student, or they are here to learn what entrepreneurship is. And then they will decide whether entrepreneurship is that what they want, or do they want to get other experiences before they come back to the starting up. Yeah, so I think I do see trends like this. With experience, you're generally a little bit more experienced, and you know, okay, this is probably what I want, and you'll spend a little bit more effort into really trying to build something. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you. I hope that addresses your concern, sir. So if you have any questions later, please
So
feel
you're
free.
ready to start your company right after you finish.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you in the program soon. So yeah, if there's no further questions from the audience, let's take a look at the next one that's submitted online. Yeah, shall we? Okay, this question is submitted by Sanjay. So what is the success ratio of startups in terms of growth and profitability set up by your students in the last 5 years or so?
Our program is still relatively young. We are only probably 3 years old. And I would say 3 years old is still very short to assess whether the startup is successful, whether the startup is profitable. Whether they are profitable, I would think some of these startups that were spin off from our program are profitable. But it's in terms of valuation, in terms of the amount, the absolute amount, I think it takes time to actually go. This is always the case. If it's a startup that is spin off and immediately will become a super scale startup, you become a super profitable, then I think the business model must be really, really good. Yeah. So in general, startup take a few years before they stabilizes and really understand the product market fit, and then that's where they grow, and then they will continue to scale from there. There is always the pre-seed to the seed stage before they go to the Series B to the Series C. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Claire. So yeah, our program has been around for just probably 3 years or so, but of course NUS Enterprise has been around for a long time, for the past 20 years
20
or
over
so.
years,
Yeah,
yes.
so what maybe you can share what are some of the success ratio or successes of NUS Enterprise, some of the big names?
So I think earlier I showed some slides. We do have some successes. We have seen more and more unicorns. By unicorns is really the valuation are more than the 1 billion USD. We have also seen some of the startups that exited through IPO, some exited through M&A. So I will see that as success, right? But I will not. I think there are also other, younger startup. It really takes time, and you start with a small profit, and then you grow and grow and grow, and that's how you can do it. M&A exit or IPO exit later on. Yeah.
Very much so. Thank you, Claire. So next question.
But if I were to put a question, numbers to the earlier question on the ratio, so generally based on our research of the startup in our ecosystem, the survival rate is actually 55% if you are beyond 5 years, compared to the national average of usually about 40%. All right, I hope this gives you a sense of the kind of numbers.
Yeah, definitely will. Thanks, Claire. So next question as we see here. How much do you think coming from a rich family affects the success rate? So Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Anthony Tan from Grab all came from rich families. So what are your thoughts or opinions, Claire?
I probably is not in the right position to really say this, but I think one of the slides I shared earlier is in terms of some of the trends that we see. I think it's like the DNA of the person and how the family, if your family really have all the entrepreneurs, and that's very likely that if this person is from that family, when you start a company, you probably have a slightly higher chance of also being more successful. So I think it's not about whether you're coming from a rich family or maybe a not so rich family. I think if money is the issue, startups generally start with the bootstrapping, and then they get more and more funding through the angels, through the VCs, and through other investors along the way. Yeah.
Thank you, Claire. And of course, if you don't have the resources, then NUS Enterprise is here to help you get started.
So we also have various grant schemes to help our students when they have ideas. We also don't want to kill it, and we want to encourage them to do it. And we do have various grants to help them with the prototype, for example, 10,000, and then you do something. And Singapore government also have a lot of different kind of grant scheme to help early stage startups. So I think this is actually the gap, but the government and the institutions are trying to see how we can help them in this early stage. And also we provide them with mentoring, really the kind of guidance on what they should look out for as they grow their startup.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Next question, shall we?
Meanwhile, any question?
Yeah, any questions from the floor? Just raise your hand and then we'll get to you. All right, sir, please.
Thank you for your great talk and very impressive program. Thank you. So, yes, you have a program for 1 year, right, for entrepreneurship. So actually, for example, if we do not have a time to attend the whole course, do you have any short course for this kind of entrepreneurship or?
So for entrepreneurship, we also have a boot camp. So the boot camp is 2 weeks, but currently is for students to learn about what entrepreneurship is. The idea is we want to open their mind first. Yeah. For those who, hey, what is entrepreneurship? I don't know what is entrepreneurship. I don't know what is startup, but I'm open to explore. So they apply, which is the program that I just mentioned. It's called the NUS Enterprise Summer Program in Entrepreneurship. So this was a program that just ended last week. We had 300 students who flew in from North America, South America, from Europe, from China, from India, from Southeast Asia. They all flew in to learn about entrepreneurship. And what we get them to do is that they have to work together with people that they don't know, with people from different countries. And that's how you learn, and you open your mind, and to work on a project together, and you really see at the end of the 2 weeks, entrepreneurship, is this really what I want? Or is this really something that is not my cup of tea?
Thank you.
So this one, we have been doing it for the past 17 years.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, if I want to start a startup company, without joining this program, do you have any plan or program or any support you can share from this NUS, the enterprise?
So for startup support, we also have the Block 71.
Okay.
So as long as you have a startup company, so you can probably get a space. And when you get selected to be part of the incubator, they will provide you with the mentorship, access to the VC network and events, learn more about various trends and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is, Block 71 is open to public, not just for NUS students.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, great. Sir, please.
Hi, I'm Mai Lim. Thanks, Claire, for a very good presentation. Two questions. First question is how old is too old before? Do you have an age limit for this program? Number one. Number two is most of the examples are in the deep tech or the high tech. Do you have programs that support more to the brick and mortar, the shallow tech? So these are something that's running through my mind. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the question. First question, age. Entrepreneurship is not about having different age group then you can apply or you cannot apply. I think mindset is more important. So I would say over the past 3-4 batches of our students, we have age range from early 20s to 50, about there, so far. I mean, we are still young. We are only 3-year-old, and I think we do see a diverse audience, because I think the idea when we select them is really on the mindset. If your mindset is not even open, regardless whether you are 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years old, this program is not suitable. But if you are 50 years old and you think, hey, I also want to start something, I want to learn more, and we welcome you, for sure. Yeah. So, and I also noticed that some of them also work very well. I mean, they have 40-something, they have a few kids, but they go in and they're just like friends with their 20-year-old friends, classmates, you see. Yeah, because I think it's really about that peer support, learning from each other, doing projects together, and then, because these are all like-minded people. Yeah. Second question is on technology. So for technology, for ideas, particularly for this program, while we hope that students without certain idea can actually leverage the NUS technology, which generally are deep tech. But we have also seen a lot of the projects which are not very deep. To use your word, the shallow tech, probably is not the right word, but what I mean is it can be digital, it can be anything. Because I think there are students who just, I want to solve a problem in this space, but maybe I just need an app to build a community, to bring people through this app and whatnot. So these are also a lot of the ideas that we have seen. And we call this is part of ICT. We also have an ICT track. So answer is yes. So some of the students who join our program, they come with certain ideas, certain problem statements that they want to solve. And they can go deep. But there are also those who are just open to see what is this and what are some of the issues out there and how can they, as an individual, contribute to that problem statement. Fair enough. You look at the NUS tech and realize, oh, I think I'm really interested into this health tech area and I want to learn more. And that's how they can also use the technology and spin it off into their business. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah, we hope we answer your questions adequately. So any further questions from the physical audience here today? No? Then let's
Maybe
take...
I ask,
sure.
how many of you actually are keen to explore a little bit more about this program? Considering, okay, got a few hands, not bad. If you have any question, feel free to reach out to us now or maybe later on, it's fine too.
Yes. So if you're a little bit shy, Claire will be hanging around,
Yes.
after the session at room 331 at the end of the walkway, so you can always catch her later. But yeah, maybe let's answer the next online submitted question. So for the company project, I suppose that students should set up by the end of the MSc program. Is it done via a group project or as an individual assignment?
For students, at the end of the semester, so throughout the whole 1 year, students will be working with different people on different projects. And to do the project doesn't mean that you will spin off as a company together in that group. So sometimes it's really about chemistry. Sometimes it's really about everybody's passion in wanting to start their business. So what we have seen is that they may be working in a group, but at the end of the 1 year, it could be that one or two decided to continue to pursue. And they will spin it off as the startup. The rest can continue to work, do what they want, go and work into other company or spin off into other companies. That's possible too. And whether it's a group project, individual assignment, I believe throughout the whole 1 year, there will be different kind of assignments, group assignments, individual assignments. And it's not so much of it is through the project, then you spin off, but it could be that through the project, through the thought process, you realize that you're really passionate into a certain topic and you want to do more, and that's why you spin off the company after you graduate. It's possible too. All
Great.
right.
Thanks, Claire. So next question, shall we? Okay, what is the main concern which should be addressed before starting an IT startup in Singapore? Yeah, your thoughts, Claire.
I think this is about setting up. Setting up is probably on ACRA side, which is how do you register a company. And I'm not sure about concern, but so far, based on what I have heard, in general, it is not difficult to incorporate a company in Singapore. So regardless whether you're doing a tech company or a non-tech company, in general, the ease of doing business, the ease of creating a startup is actually not too difficult in Singapore. Yeah.
Maybe we'll rephrase the question more in context on the NUS front. So in terms of starting out a company, whether it's IT or any other industry, how does NUS Enterprise comes in that process? What are the assistance? What are the help rendered in terms of starting up a company? Maybe you can share on that.
I think based on, for example, I can cite one of our students. After they graduate, they want to start a company. So they want to apply the EntrePass. And to apply the EntrePass, because they are incubated at NUS, we can actually write a letter to help them with their EntrePass application. So that is how NUS support. I'm just citing an example of what we've done over these recent 2 years. Yeah. So, and in terms of support, we provide them with co-working spaces. Because I think as an early stage startup, you probably don't want to spend money on renters outside, right? And renters right now is also increasing. So we acknowledge that and we provide them with free spaces in the campus, at least at the very early stage when they start a company. So that they get the office desk, they get the workstations, and they get access to use the facilities, the meeting rooms, access to our mentors and other shared resources.
Yep. Thanks, Claire. So that's very important, the endorsement and the resources provided on the NUS front. Yep. Next question. Okay, this question is posted online by Sahasika. So what is the biggest challenge in building a connected ecosystem like Block 71?
Challenge, I think, is definitely there. Everywhere you go, if you want to expand. So we started with having our incubator in campus. We slowly get out of campus. We do it at Block 71. We open to the public. And then we want to expand beyond Singapore. And we go to Indonesia, we go to US, we go to China. And we currently are also going to a few other locations. So I'm not sure if I'm the best one to talk about challenge, but I think having the right partner in the local market is very, very important. So if you realize for our Block 71, in each of the locations, we actually have a partner, a local partner who can help us when we expand there, and who can also value add to our incubatees, whoever needs certain support, either from NUS or from our partner. Yeah. So we have partnership with various corporates when we do our incubator and when we do our accelerator. So for example, for accelerator, we have one accelerator that focuses on cybersecurity. We currently work with the Cybersecurity Authority of Singapore. We also have one accelerator on aviation tech. We currently work with Singapore Airlines. we have also one accelerator that focused on maritime tech, and that is where we work with the Maritime Port of Authority in Singapore. When we go overseas, for example, when we expand our Block 71 to Indonesia, our partner is Salim Group. And those who know Indonesia, you may also have heard about Salim Group. They also have a lot of resources that our startup can actually tap on when they are in the market. So in different countries, we have different partners. And in Singapore, with different program, different accelerator and incubator, we also work with different partners. So I think having the right partner is actually very important. All right?
That's very true. Thank you, Claire. So we are running a little bit tight on schedule. So maybe any last questions from the physical audience? Okay, great. Please.
Thank you for sharing. So I just want to clarify for the GRIP program you just mentioned and also the Block 71. So is it after the GRIP of about 3 months program lifespan, right? Then the successful teams will go to the Block 71 for acceleration, or is it how it works?
So as part of, I think you're talking about our Master of Science in Venture Creation.
Yes, correct,
So
the GRIP program.
how it works is that we actually put the GRIP curriculum as a core curriculum for the Master of Science in Venture Creation. So that is a 6-month program. So that is for the semester 2 of these masters. And when the students are ready to spin off a startup, they get incubated at our Block 71, our hangar, or our other incubator facilities. That is possible as well. So far, we have startups, after they graduate, they either get incubated at hangar, which is based in campus, or they get incubated at Block 71, that is based outside of campus.
I see, and that depends. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that addresses. So that is only the last question for this session, but might not be the last question of the day. So if any of you are interested to catch Claire or her colleagues later, you can head on to room 331 at the end of this walkway. And then,
So feel free to reach out. My name is Claire. My colleague Jessie, raise your hand, and she will also be able to help answer some of the questions. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, that's right. So thank you, Claire, once again, for engaging with our audience during the Q&A segment. And to the audience, we invite you to share your views on this particular session.